It's called the greatest outdoor show on earth, and today we're right at the heart of it. Taping this episode of Alberta Edge from the heart of downtown Calgary, just as cowboys, horses, and cattle are gearing up for what's shaping up to be a picture-perfect day. But the Calgary Stampede isn't just about rodeo thrills and country tunes. It's also one of the most important political and business and cultural events of the year. Joining me this morning are two guests who bring very different perspectives to the Stampede. Anila Umar is a Stampede volunteer and from Calgary. Tim Hudak is a former Ontario politician, and he is what we might call affectionately a Stampede tenderfoot. Anila, maybe you can explain to me what that term means.
Well, it's somebody who's been to the Stampede before and is, and decided to come back and is just kind of gently getting their feeding in there and, starting to understand the lingo and some of the politics around it and, and really dressing the part appropriately.
Really? I get a passing grade.
You
Wow.
do.
Yeah.
I'm feeling like I'm an imposter. Wow.
Oh,
So I'm
you look
simply a
good.
tenderfoot.
You're tenderfoot.
I thought it
All the levels.
describes the feeling when you take your boots off at the end of the day after going to receptions from morning till night. So, well, that's great. Anila, let's start with you. You've been involved with the Stampede for a very long time. Tell me a little bit about what it means in your words and what it means for Calgary.
Well, being a born and raised Calgarian, the Stampede is in our blood, right? It really is about showcasing who we are as a city and really bringing together the world with our Western heritage and with our ability to have people from all over the world come and settle here and still maintain that pioneering spirit, that small town feel. And so really kind of a family atmosphere as we take on global politics, global business, and this is our opportunity to showcase the best of all of that.
Wow.
Yeah. So, Tim, you're flying in from Central Canada.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that. What do people think about when they hear you're coming out to the Calgary Stampede?
A lot of positive, like they want to go. So some have been and they love it, right? They share how much they enjoy, love to go back, the adventures. And then others say, I'd always want to do that. And then what's it like? So now as a tenderfoot, can I actually just describe it with some accuracy?
Yeah.
And then they do ask, like, does everybody actually wear cowboy gear?
Yeah.
And I can tell you the story my first time I came. I was an unbeliever.
Yeah.
Can I tell you that story?
No, go on. I have a version of it, but I'll tell you after once
Yeah,
I hear
sure.
yours.
So I was a new leader of the Ontario Conservative Party and was meeting the other premier. So they said, let's go to Stampede. You can check it out. And then Premier Ed Stelmach.
Yes.
And they said, you can meet the premier in his Calgary office at Stampede. I said, okay, great. But you have a cowboy hat and boots and a buckle. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And they said, you have to dress the part. And I thought my staff was giving me a story, playing a bit of prank on me.
No, absolutely.
And so then I did a bad leader thing, and I went around my staff and asked people who come here that work in the energy sector. They said, oh, yeah, you got to do it. So I got my hat, I got my boots,
looks good.
and I got actually a souvenir belt buckle from Stampede of 2010
Nice.
when I was out here. And I remember Ryan was like yesterday, sitting across the table in his office, very nice office from Premier Stelmach.
Yes.
In our cowboy getup,
Absolutely.
trying to think, is this actually really happening?
Well, Tim, even as an Edmontonian, I experienced a little bit about that. So, the Stampede in the northern half of the province is kind of a bit mysterious as well. And when you're talking to people, it's the same exact thing. It's like, no, you will dress up. Everybody does. Like, you would feel silly showing up here today if you weren't wearing the outfit.
Well, and the thing is, as a Calgarian, right, and community leader, and you invite people from, especially different parts of Canada to come, the number of cowboy hats and, that I had just had with me and other things, because I thought, this person just is not believing us, right? And then they're going to feel awkward. So it's like, they come into the building and they're like, oh shoot, everybody is. And I'm like, don't worry. Here's your cowboy hat. I got you one. The number of times I've had to do that because they just did not believe that was going to happen, right? So but this is us.
Well, I wanted to talk about that a little bit. As a cultural event, it seems like the Stampede is a great equalizer. So people from as you know, Calgary's growing like crazy. There's people coming from all over the world. Feels to me like what you just said is true. it's the one thing that makes everybody kind of on equal footing. So you can't tell if you've been here for 7 generations or you got here last week. Either way, you're dressed like this. But it feels to me like that's exactly a feature, not a bug, and it's part of the whole idea.
You know, I think, yes, absolutely. You know, as a Calgarian, there's a time in everybody's life, you know, when you're somewhere in a teenager where you rebel and you're like, I'm not going to do that. And that's so uncool. And I'm never going to do this again.
What do they wear instead?
Oh, you know, they're wearing their little Daisy Dukes and they're like, you
Yeah.
know, like they're
There's a
they're all
different version
cute.
of
There's
it.
a different version of
Okay,
it, but
yeah.
it does not look like, you know, and they're like, I'm not doing this. And then something happens to you when you hit about 25-ish or something, and then you're in the business world or you're doing, you know, whatever, and you start getting invited to these different events, depending on your industry. And so now you're like, okay, I really do, as a part of my profession, need to look the part as well. And then you start understanding a little bit more of, it's not just the Midway rides, and it's not just, you know, going and checking out the girls and the boys when we were young and all those things. It's I'm actually going to the rodeo, and there's actually sports involved, and there's actually culture involved,
Yeah.
and there's animal care, and there's all these different things, agriculture, and you're actually able to teach, you know, children. We've got so many school groups that come in and camps and things like that, so that children throughout the year understand where their food came from. So there's a huge educational aspect to it as well. And I think that that's the most important part, is how do we connect on all of these multiple levels that are so important to just our basic needs.
Tim, I want to talk to you a little bit about the political side.
Sure.
So you were provincial party leader, as you mentioned. You've been around conservative politics and everything. Talk about why politicians from coast to coast show up here today or this week.
It is, you know, Ryan, the only equivalent might be the Carnival in Quebec, right? It is such a iconic piece of Canadian, a celebration, as Neil just said, about our history, our culture, the coming together of sport, agriculture, business, and government. So I was thrilled and excited to come out because there's nothing really quite like that anywhere in Canada.
Yeah.
I'll come to the thing you said earlier, but my second point was going to be that it's a celebration, some pride at a time in Canada where it seems like we're always apologizing, running down our country, saying that we're doing things wrong. This is an unabashed celebration of Canada and what it all means in the province of Alberta. I love that.
Yeah.
And third, you're right, it's an equalizer. It's casual. The fact that we all got our get up, right, levels the playing field. Typically when in politics you go to a big event, it's stuffy, you know, you're kind of stiff and all that kind of stuff, very controlled.
Yeah.
This is wide open, level playing field, and just very relaxing, which I think then helps bigger conversations at the political level, business level, and locals.
Okay, well, you just gave me a new topic that I didn't plan on asking you about, but you talked a little bit about the story, and I want to take it to the idea of the frontier. Alberta has a mythology, the story we tell ourselves about the frontier and about why we exist, and the story of how it came to be. As an Ontarian, you know, when you hear about Alberta and that pride we have in the cowboy way, but kind of as a metaphor of the frontier, like what do you think about that? What do Ontarians think right now when they hear about Calgary and the growth that we're seeing here?
I think there's a lot of pride in that. There is envy. You know, while Ontario was doing well as somebody born and raised in Niagara in the province of Ontario, the notion that we'd be a have-not province depending on Alberta and Saskatchewan, right, to send us money is an embarrassment to our province, and hopefully we'll grow our way out of that. You know, one of the things I really enjoyed when I had a chance to be in cabinet was I typically try to find an alliance with my Alberta equivalent. And sometimes BC would be there, sometimes Quebec. But when there was that Ontario-Alberta alliance, when Premier Harris, when I was there, and Premier Klein, I did the same thing as a mines minister and a tourism minister.
Yeah.
We sort of then pressured the federal government to make changes, right? So I always look for the other pole of strength in Canada to have a unified front to get things done for our country as a whole. And Alberta was such a key, positive, ambitious, and innovative driver in that respect.
So a lot of Albertans are feeling a little bit unsure right now about Confederation, about the role that we play in the country. Although you're not a politician anymore, while I've got you, I just wonder if you have anything to say to those of us who are kind of wondering, like, what is it about Canada that we should continue to be excited about? What is it about the deal that we have that should make Albertans want to stay?
Yeah. Look, and I guess former politician, I'm a recovering politician.
Yes.
I'm on step
Exactly.
9 of the program, making my way through it, but it never
I'm
gets.
recovering staff.
Oh,
And
no.
it's been 15 years and
Yeah.
I'm still recovering.
Yeah,
Yeah, what step are you on of the program?
Denial.
I'm just still at 2. So, you know,
Denial. You're at the denial stage.
denial, I'm
Yeah.
completely in denial.
But you know, it's to put it this way, Ryan. Like when I've been doing the receptions here, and I'm now a partner at Council of Public Affairs, one of Canada's leading government relations and public affairs companies, and I'll feel the same. But you know, the strength of business here. We often think obviously oil and gas and energy, think agribusiness, but technology. You know, really across the board. Canada needs Alberta. Canada would fall apart without the province of Alberta. And I don't live here. I've been in Ontario, I lived in the state of Washington for a little while, but not been in Alberta aside from business. But I get it, right? Frankly, this is the politician coming out. Alberta's been thrown under the bus. There was a government that we had recently that used to Alberta as a threat to the rest of Canada, brought in policies that slowed down this engine, said bad things about what energy and gas meant, kept stuff that could create jobs and enormous wealth under the ground.
Yeah.
I do hope our new Prime Minister now is going to reverse that trend, and I think Pierre Poilievre has been an awesome champion of the potential here.
Let's get away from politics. Anila, I'll come back to you for a more general conversation, but I want to ask you, if someone is coming to the Stampede and they're going to plan their day,
Yeah.
what does a day at the Stampede look like? Not the political GR stuff that we're going to do today,
Yeah.
but real Stampede.
Okay. Well, you know, I think what's really important is like we're standing here, you know, on the hill. We're overlooking the entire Stampede Park. It's a beautiful view from here. And we're overlooking the Ela River Camp. And
Right.
so Ela River Camp is actually where all of our Treaty 7 Indigenous communities, they're actually camping out here. And I think that that is honestly the best place to start
Yeah.
when you come in, to really see, you know, who are the people that were here first,
Right.
and also to understand, because I don't think a lot of people even in Alberta understand that we're able to showcase our Blackfoot, our Tsuut'ina, our Métis, you know, all of our different our cultures, because the Stampede and the pioneers of the Stampede were so adamant that our Indigenous communities were involved. So they went over and above the Indian Act. They went over the Indian agents and went, no, these people are going to be here. And that really helped to preserve
Wow.
the culture and the ways of being in a much more enriched way than other parts, right? So
Yeah.
to me, that's
Wow.
really the place where you want to start.
Yeah, and we're standing right above it.
Right.
Viewers may not be able to see it, but it's right there.
You know, and
Yeah.
so I think that's the most important place to start. And from there, you know, go through the Midway, take a look at, you know, go on some rides, get yourself scared, throw up after eating corn dogs, you know, and eat something weird. We always have something. We've got scorpion pizza on a stick,
Really?
or this or that, like
Wow.
something. There's something deep fried, always deep fried, and it's always weird.
Yes.
You know, and so we've got all this different food and food from around the world. We've got all kinds of free shows, everything that you can see. We've got dogs, like super dogs that everyone loves. And then we've got an entire exhibition.
A dog just went there. There we
Speaking of
go.
which,
You know, we've got an exhibition, so you can, vendors that you can get all kinds of different wares from, all kinds of things. And of course, you have to end your evening with the rodeo.
Right.
You have to see the chuck wagons, you
Yeah.
got to do the rodeo. And then we've got this beautiful evening show that happens. And in the evening show, we've got our youth singers that will be a part of the show, get to showcase their talent and get to showcase everything that they've been doing. We get a lot of international musicians and singers that really come out of that from that kind of training. And then we end the evening with fireworks at 11 o'clock at night.
Right.
That's about the time when it gets dark around here,
Yeah.
right? So then we end the evening with fireworks. You can
Yeah.
see the fireworks, of course, if you're at the evening show, you see them right there.
Yeah.
But you can see them basically from most places in Calgary.
This spot would be perfect.
This
Yeah.
part is
Yeah.
absolutely perfect.
We can meet here tonight at 11 o'clock.
Absolutely. And then, you know, and that's a full evening. And then, you know, going back to our original thing, and then, you know, you understand being a tenderfoot because you've been going around for so long, for so
Yes.
many days, that when you take off your boots, you kind of don't want to, because you're wondering, how am I going to get my feet back in them
Sure.
the
Yeah.
next day? So I know from a Stampede princess, she told me the trick. She said you must buy compression socks.
Oh.
And you wear
nice,
compression socks,
nice.
and then you don't have any issues. So this is what I do. I currently have runner's knees, so I have to wear my runners because I can't wear the boots.
Yeah.
But I always wear compression socks, and then I don't have problem for 10 days in boots.
Wow.
Really?
Yes. And it was the Stampede Princess that told me that.
And the Stampede Princess, how do you get to that level? What do you have to do? I'm a tenderfoot.
So it's a competition,
Oh,
right?
there you go.
So the women go through a competition, and you can get selected as a Stampede Princess. And then we also have our Indigenous Princess as well. And they go around as ambassadors for the Stampede. They go to different events, they get their photo taken, and all through the year they do volunteer work. They try to build up,
Wow.
the community spirit,
Yeah.
and everything like that. But that was like the best tip I ever got, and it was from this beautiful Stampede Princess that I worked with on our Ag Media Committee. And that's what she said. She said, everyone wear compression socks and you'll be fine. And
Wow.
we went out and got them. Some people even
Yeah.
bought them from the dollar store and they worked.
Sure. Yeah.
There you go.
Well, as we wrap up, we gave Tim the chance to do a tiny shout out about what he's doing now.
Yeah.
I think viewers may be interested to know what you're doing now. You've got a very interesting coat on. Do you want to talk a little bit about
Yeah.
the organization?
Yes. So I am a volunteer. I'm on the board, and I do work with the Wild Horses Association of Alberta.
And that is, for Ontario viewers, that is a real thing.
Yeah, yes. So we do have wild horses in Alberta, and unfortunately, if they do come onto private lands, then they can be slaughtered if they're not rescued. So the private landowners will let us know. We go and rescue, similar to like how you would rescue a dog or a cat.
Except with lassos.
Yes.
We've got our own cowboys and cowgirls, and they can go out and in a very kind, humane way, and then they stay on 100 acres of donated land. We've got volunteers that work year-round to take care of these horses, and then you can buy the horse and take it to your stable for $800 because it's a rescue. It's
That's a good deal.
price.
If my wife hears that, I'm going to be bringing a horse home. So hopefully the show won't play until after I've gone home.
And we do send them to all over Canada.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Well, as we wrap up, I guess I have one more request of you, Anila, and it is for a guy from Toronto and a guy from Edmonton. How are our outfits? Are we looking okay? Did we meet the mark?
You absolutely did. You know what I really love the most about your outfits is that the boots aren't too shiny.
No.
Uh-huh.
Like they've been worked in,
Yes.
which is, I think, a really important part of it. Neither of you are wearing your hats backwards. That is always a no-no, like a big
Yes.
no-no.
Some politicians have done that over the years.
Yes, and please, never, it's not yeehaw. We don't do that. Just like we never say giddy up.
Okay.
We don't say yeehaw, it's yahoo.
Huh.
Okay, so when we got to do a big stampede shout, we all scream yahoo. It's never yeehaw. If it's yeehaw, I would run because people are going to be like, okay, we're coming after you.
Well, note to the editor, if this is really bad, we're going to edit it out. But maybe as we wrap up the show, we can end with the Yahoo. But
I said it and then I got scared. We're now going to have to yahoo.
this has been a
good
great
practice.
conversation. Unless you have anything else to add, I think we can wrap it there. And on the count of 3, we do a Yahoo.
Okay.
All right. 1, 2, 3. Yahoo!
Yahoo!